The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed on the Canna Connect Show belong solely to the individuals and do not reflect those of Canna Connect and its affiliates, sponsors, or partners. Canna Connect does not promote or facilitate any activity that violates state or federal regulations. Everything you hear here is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not legal advice, it is not financial guidance, and it's definitely not medical direction. Seriously, don't take our word for it. Even if someone on the mic sounds like they know what they're talking about, and they're probably crazy smart too. Regardless of how legit our guests may be, you should always do your own homework, consult with your attorney, and understand the risk you're taking before you do anything when it comes to cannabis. Our intention is to keep it real. If you've got a problem with anything we've said, take us to court.
All right, everybody, we're back for another episode of the Canna Connect Show. Today, I'm sitting with Brandon Padget, Chief Deposit Officer at Union Bank and Trust. Union Bank and Trust is celebrating 50 years as a business. Brand new logo, officially out now.
Finally.
What is it like working for an organization like Union Bank and Trust?
It's cool and it's special. I shared this last night with the team. I told you, we cooked breakfast as senior leaders yesterday, and then we ordered in some lunch, and then we had a happy hour with Lunds catered from across the street. And
yeah,
you think about an organization that was built and founded by the men and women that literally built the city and state we live in, right? To protect their assets.
Wow.
You know, they pull wire as an electrician, or they bend sheet metal, or they pour concrete or whatever. They're the people we don't think about a lot, but
Right.
they built this bank to protect their assets and make sure they had a future. And so now it's cool for us because let's say we fund a loan for a training facility, a joint apprentice training center. So we're at the front end of these careers, right? People that are 18, some of them changing careers 30, but they're new in their career, and we're helping get them trained. And then we have the people on the back end of the career where we're funding their retirement, we're sending their checks, we're sending their vacation. They're getting it. So it's like from beginning to end of their careers, we're impacting it. On the back end, a lot of people don't think about the finances, especially the union. We're 100% union owned, 24 different labor organizations.
Wow.
Including the Minnesota AFL-CIO is the one most people are familiar with.
Okay. What does that stand for? Or who do they represent?
So they represent all workers, all organized workers across the state, right? So, but it's special, right? I've worked in banking forever, since the mid 2000s. Let's not date me too much.
No.
Lady yesterday said, "Oh, you already have gray hair." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." But yeah, it's a special place because banking is always cool. You think you've helped somebody, right? You got a home mortgage for somebody and they bought a boat. That's awesome. It's cool, right? You help get a student loan. That's awesome. But the holistic help of this, like when we do something, it doesn't impact one family or one person. It impacts thousands at a time sometimes, right? Like,
I think about infrastructure in what your members have provided.
Yeah.
Dating back 50 years. How unique of an idea, how out, I don't want to say radical because I was just using that term, right? But how different were the labor organizers thinking when they formed a bank? Could they pull that from Milwaukee, or could they pull that from St. Louis? Was that?
No, we're so unique because all the other labor banks that are credit unions, there's not a lot anymore, but they're all single trade, right? So like an IBW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, electricians, right? They'll own a credit union.
Yes.
For their members, for that local.
Okay.
Or
the most popular one is Navy.
Essentially, we're like Navy Federal on the union side, right? But that's just the Navy.
Yes.
Whereas we represent all skilled trades. So you think about the construction trades, and then some other non-trades. United Food and Commercial Workers, Teamsters, are also shareholders of ours. So it's a wide breadth. Bank of Labor is another really good bank in the space. They're out of Kansas City, but they're a Boilermaker bank, right? They're owned solely by the Boilermakers Union.
Wow.
So they're a single trade.
Right.
ABOC out of Chicago, Amalgamated out of New York. There's a few credit unions out there, but they're single trade.
I don't remember how we first got introduced, but I'm thinking back to the early conversations, and it's Union Bank and Trust. Okay, but that's just their name. I don't know anything about the history. And it's different than, not to pick on any one other bank, but it's in the formation and the mission of Union Bank and Trust. It's unique to the greater industry. And one of the ways you guys one of the ways Union Bank and Trust differentiated themselves early on in the cannabis industry, at least when you came out of the closet. I don't have as much background on the medical marijuana side, but when you started coming out to the independents and the traditional industry as we know it now, you said cannabis banking should not be expensive. You should not be getting taxed in a way that it's more expensive for a cannabis entrepreneur than a restaurant entrepreneur, for example. And I think that was one of the early ways you differentiated yourselves. How do you tie that feature of your business back to the mission overall with Union Bank?
Wonderful question. We started in medical, right? That the medical couldn't find banking in Minnesota. They knocked doors of probably every bank in the state, and people were like,
they didn't come to you first.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And our board took a risk and said, yeah, we want to try that. Let's do it. Let's see what it looks like. Nobody thought let's gouge this company. It wasn't a thought. It was let's see what it looks like, how we do it. Let's see. I've shouted out Debbie before to you and on some other podcasts. Let's see what Debbie can put together. 41 years with us, by the way. Put together that can help these people. And as the industry grew, the medical industry grew, our ownership group, our shareholders, our board members saw members. So the people we just talked about that build this city, state, country, slow down on alcohol, get off of opioids. They saw just the benefit of the flower, of the plant, of how it can make people's lives better. And as the verticals changed, right? We had the farm bill and then the drinks and edible bill in Minnesota. They've encouraged us to go hard into those spaces with good customers, right? We interview the clients. We do now we have the OCM guardrails, which is helpful, right?
If you think about it, it's kind of every 4 years in 2018, 2022. Now we're here in 2026, March of 2026 as we record this, and you guys have really hit your stride. You have a number of cannabis entrepreneurs banking with you, cannabis brands, companies, organizations, not just dispensaries, I would imagine.
No, all through everything. I mean, the mezzos, obviously, we're onboarding a bunch of mezzos right now, but we have a ton of the smaller people. We have a little grow that the guy he bought a farm, he lives on it. He lived in his truck for a while and started his grow. Now he's got a place he lives in a space, but it's so from that to, we have a cannabis company. We have 34 different locations across different verticals. People don't even know it's all the same umbrella.
And so I mean, you did answer it, but Debbie and the team was able to figure out a way to say yes to cannabis.
Yes.
And if you think about the hard labor jobs, labor in general, whether you're working at Lunds and Byerly's and you're represented by UFCW, or you're represented by Local 49 and you're in concrete or earth movers and things like that, like
the giant Tonka trucks.
The giant Tonka trucks, like joints, arthritis, stress, pain, soreness, all things that
we don't talk. We're so excited about adult use rec, CBD. You gave me CBD for my concussion.
Yeah,
it helped a ton. We're very pumped, and we rightfully so. Adult use rec marijuana is a blast.
Yeah,
but we forgot about the other effects of the plant, how it betters people's lives, and that's what our ownership structure saw, and that's what we see. And it, we don't have all these weird, crazy rules on alcohol. I know we've talked about this before.
Right?
Why have all these weird, crazy rules on marijuana? Right?
It has healing properties.
It has healing properties, right? So yeah, a lot of the members too is the bombs and the CBD, the drops, the tincture, and all that is just wonderful.
Non-psychoactive, safe and effective.
Yeah.
And
so through all different levels of use, we've seen people change and evolve, but we've tried to stay the same with, if you are people forward as an organization, we want to bank you and we don't want to stress you out. I've shared this story with you before, and I've shared it many times publicly, but we've saved one cannabis company almost $30,000 a year just in fees. What did that do for them? Marketing and a part-time employee.
Yeah.
They got a Saturday back. The owner got a Saturday back in their life.
Yeah.
So we can eliminate burnout now.
Wow.
You know, how long are you going to be in business if you work 52 weeks a year, 12 hours a day?
Right.
as much as you love something, there's an end to that.
Yeah.
You know, whether your wife tells you there's an end to that, or your kids tell you, or your body tells you there's an end to that.
Yeah.
Not that you don't have to fee, right? I'm not saying there's no fees, and I think Minnesota's done a wonderful job. The banks in the state, we all talk quite a bit. Exchanged emails yesterday with the bank. They can't quite help this company get their building built, so we're going to try to help them get this building built, right? So the partnership of the cannabis banks and the lower fees, you know, Minnesota, some people did start high, but they've come back to real good fees.
Okay.
You know, and you, as a business, you have to decide what's it cost us to operate and what's the risk profile, and what are we gonna charge a client to balance it for us.
Yeah.
Ours are lower than probably everybody's, but Minnesota's done a great job of bringing it down to being accessible banking for all.
Okay.
Because we
What
talk
role,
about this.
what role does the state play?
None.
Okay. Just Minnesota as an industry,
Yeah,
as a collective.
As a collective, yeah.
I hear you.
The banks have done a great job of realizing this is a great industry.
Yeah.
It's a wider industry than most people think about. Let's figure out a way to make sure these business owners can operate.
Hey everybody, Stephen with Canna Connect, taking a quick minute to shout out today's sponsor, CEE. That is the Center for Energy and Environment. If you're not familiar with CEE, they're your one-stop shop for all lighting rebates. If you are in XL Energy territory and you're a micro business, CEE is somebody that you need to talk to. Give Brad a call, give Tony a call, go online, one-stop shop, LED lighting rebates. They'll help take care of up to 60% of the costs associated with your grow and your build-out with the lighting. Really nice people, great people to work with, huge sponsors of Canna Connect, and give them a shout. That's CEE, Center for Energy and Environment. You know, in the same sense of, I'm going to make a parallel here with like fear around the effect of low dose beverages, for example, or low dose hemp edible products. Monday morning quarterback, now that you've helped stand up this cannabis program for independents and entrepreneurs in the state, how, in actuality, how much, in the sense of more or less, has the compliance and the nefarious side of the industry actually come up in your KYC process? Not looking to single in on one, but going, 3 years later, how, I'm going to say nefarious as the word, to say like, okay, yeah, there is actually legitimate concern around how some of these folks are operating because it's below ground, above ground. And it's probably very dependent on where they're coming from. If they're coming from making millions in this space, or they're coming from making cash in the below ground.
Right.
But as a mix, because I know compliance is paramount to banking, how much of a concern has it actually been inside the four walls?
For us, not a huge concern, right? One, Debbie built one of the first programs in the state. She did a great job. It was very manual for a while.
Yeah.
But site visits and we talk to people too. It's not just guy walks in on the street, gal walks in on the street. We're asking questions, if we have, but then now we also have a system in place. We use a third-party fintech.
Okay.
That's going to run all good news, bad news checks across all 50 states. That's going to, if you've got a speeding ticket in Florida, we know.
Got it.
It comes up. The list is wild of the information we get. So there's nothing you're hiding from us.
And not that a speeding ticket in Florida would ban.
It would not. Sorry.
No. Yeah. But like, you're gonna find out if there's something there.
Exactly. And most people, I would say, you're below ground, the way you put it. Operators have been very honest with us. This is how I got to this space. This is how I'm transitioned out of this space. Here's my plan. Here's how I insulated myself. Here's how I'll continue to insulate myself.
Okay.
And then we follow OCM guidelines. We use our third-party fintech. You talk to people too. We're constantly interviewing. We have a good handful of people that have been in it a long time through different, whether it's glass blowing or it's the drinks or it's manufacturing or it's, we ask them, what do you know about this person?
Sure.
We're starting to hear, it feels funny. I've asked you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
This feels a little funny, Stephen. What do you know about what's going on here? And so we can try to use our network too. So
right. And I think you've built a really strong network from who I know that is involved at Union Bank.
Absolutely.
I had a quick pivot here for you. The advancement that how long have you been at UBT?
3 years.
Okay, so it has been
Yeah.
3 years, but you've moved fast in standing up this, coming out of the cannabis closet, as we first referred to it
Right.
on the Northern Lights podcast. Fast forward 2 years, 2.5 years, and you're starting to focus on larger industries outside of cannabis that are core to Union Bank's mission. So you've created some separation from the cannabis program, but you've put some really good people in place.
Yeah.
Talk about who folks can get in touch with when they're actually applying and reaching out, because that's kind of
Absolutely.
moved off your desk and onto Oliver.
It has. Yeah. Oliver Gutierrez Garcia is our AVP of Client Services. Exactly what it sounds like, right? You need something done as a client, reach out to Oliver. He's going to quarterback it. He's done the certifications through the payments, banking, compliance conferences. He does continuing ed. He gets on the learnings. And then Paul Ranaset is our AVP of Treasury Services. So Treasury Services, for those that aren't familiar with banking, is how the money moves. It's ACHs, it's the wires, it's that back end movement of the money, how you get on and view your money. The security things we put in place to protect the money movement in and out. And both with tons of experience. But these guys are awesome, and they're passionate about small business. They're passionate about helping people succeed, helping workers. We don't hire anybody, we hire on values, right? We're a union-owned bank. We can teach you a lot of things if you have the right values.
Yeah.
And these guys care about people. We all have our own individual story about why Union Bank and Trust calls to us. They both have unique stories. I won't even try to tell them for them, but
Sure.
if you ever get a chance to ask them about them, Paul's especially is very powerful. But these are great guys that want to help the industry. And then our banker team too has got some of the entry-level cannabis certifications. So you're going to be able to walk in the bank, ask questions, call the bank, email the customer service line. And we have people that have at least a level 1 cannabis certification that can answer your questions.
And talk a little bit, obviously folks are familiar with Canna Connect. They're probably less familiar with PBC. Talk a little bit about how much they matter in your industry. So there's the conference, but then they also have the education certification.
There's a Marijuana Bankers Association. There's payments, banking, and compliance in cannabis. They're similar. We do PBC. I'm a people person. I kind of make my decisions a lot on the people, right? And if you have a similar, great. I met the people at the Marijuana Cannabis or the Cannabis Bankers Association. Awesome people. They're really connected with the PBC. So PBC is payments, banking, and compliance on cannabis.
And
they put on a conference every September after Labor Day in DC, where like last year I was a moderator and we talked about how the taxes happen, how it moves, how you can lend, all that. So there's different professionals, a CPA, a lender, an insurance guy, and we talked through that. And so a lot of times you have bankers or insurance reps or people trying to get started in the business come out to this conference to hear. So I moderated that, but it's a learning, and you can go through either a track of like a sales track, marketing track, or you go through a compliance track at this conference every year. And then, I wrote a paper for them to be a certified PBC professional on why I don't think you have to gouge in the cannabis space. It's not saying you don't have to charge fees, but so I will have a webinar in May through them, and these people that get the certified will all have webinars that you can also then continue to learn, whether you're inside the ecosystem or you just want the one-off. But it's all about the things people don't talk about: the law, the CPAs, the bankers. Everybody's like, "Oh, we're going to sell cannabis. It's great and make a lot of money." Well, you need us, not just me, right? You need a banking ecosystem.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you.
PBC puts together all the ancillary services, and they actually have a directory where you can go out and find these people in each state, people that are friendly across state lines. And it's cool because I'm talking with a cash transfer person, vault services person, and a banker out of Oklahoma, and we're trying to see if we can do something for PBC this fall. So it's bringing people from across the country together to talk about what it looks like in New Jersey, what it looks like in Oklahoma, what it looks like in Tennessee, what it looks like in Minnesota, are the 4 people in there. So it's also bringing you together across state lines.
Turning stars into constellations and building a network within a sector of this industry. But it's not just cannabis. PBC goes beyond cannabis. Is that right?
PVC doesn't go beyond
It's
cannabis.
just cannabis.
It's just cannabis. Yeah.
Yeah, which is even better
Yeah.
for us to talk about. Yeah. So, that's great. That's really great. And actually, I knew that, but you know, sometimes you think small, and then sometimes you think big.
Yeah.
And with banking, it's often cannabis is just a
Mhm.
vertical. But I think Union Bank and Trust has done a really good job of platforming in a safe way to say, hey, we're not, like Luke says, we're the boogeyman doesn't live here.
No.
And if he does, your team's going to find out.
Yeah. Exactly. And you know, I think the cross reference to our original, what we do is it's huge for us. And I know you're working in some avenues with this, like the 49ers. I know the Teamsters are doing their own thing, but it's how do we find a way to help create careers in cannabis?
Yeah.
Not just 20-hour, 15-hour churn and burn,
Right.
in and out. You know, we want people. Cannabis is a skilled industry. You know, we have the rap from the, you know, people our age from the 90s. It's the stoners out back at school. No, this is a technical industry that takes very smart, very educated, very dedicated people. And a lot of them have built a career because they are that. But then there's people that want to work in the industry and want a career in it, but there's not a lot of opportunity to get good pay, good benefits, retirement.
Right.
And you know, we're trying to work together. And I know you guys are working with some things too with the college and a union. How do we create cannabis careers? How can you start, like we talked about with the electric, like we build the Joint Apprentice Training Center. How do you start at a training center, get a degree, a 2-year, 4-year, whatever it looks like, a certification, and then work for 30, 35 years and retire on the lake if you want, or move south or whatever that looks like.
A real career.
Built a real career
in
with
America.
a real safety net in the middle class. You know, we keep shrinking. I will not get on my soapbox there. Sorry.
Yeah.
We feel like this is a way to expand it.
Right. It can be, and it has to be thoughtfully crafted. It can't just be treated like, well, I'm not going to pick on any one, you know, brand or restaurant or anything like that. But I mean, what yesterday I did, you know, there's something that comes up there, but the intention behind it, because I guess it goes back to how we found cannabis. You know, we found cannabis through a Ziploc bag that our friend had, and you know, we go around the house and backyard into the neighborhood, and we find a place where, you know, we're not going to be seen, and you know, it's whatever pipe,
pop can
or pipe or apple, and then
never did the apple.
I did the apple once. I did the apple.
Nice.
The thought though is like, it was not legitimate from the get-go when we found it. Now, as young people are coming online, it's legitimate in retail stores like Quick Trip and Cub Foods and Lunds and Byerly's, but also it's legitimate in municipalities and on reservation as an alternative to opiates and alcohol. There's so much legitimacy, positive legitimacy headwinds for the cannabis industry, so that folks can appreciate it more and not look down on it, not step on it. Because when it was underground and it was illegal and you had to sneak to find it, you're not going to value that as a career, right? I mean, until you got out to Oregon, until you got out to California, but the folks that are from where I grew up, Classic Lake Conference, those guys had to really step out counterculture and go learn how to trim and grow and disappear for a few years to get that training that you're talking about. You're talking about legitimacy, certification, value. The unions want to standardize wages. They want to know that this wage provides this much. This job provides this much in wages. This job provides this much in wages, so that laborers, individuals, employees are not taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's protecting workers. But until you have a legitimate industry, it's really hard to do that.
Well, people forget, right? Like even just in Minnesota alone, in lifetimes of at least our grandparents, we had workers killed in Minneapolis, killed on the Iron Range, one for fighting for what you're talking about, just a legitimate wage and a weekend. We don't have weekends just because business owners decided to give us weekends, right? We don't have health insurance just because a business owner decided, oh, let's make sure we give health insurance.
I see.
Those are things workers fought for. They fought for legitimacy. They fought for, you turn in a great profit, but what do we get, right? And that's kind of where we're at a little bit in cannabis. A lot of great individuals in cannabis. So it's not as bad as you would think back to like Bloody Friday in Minneapolis, but
sure,
it's how do we, to your point, legitimize a career? You can work at the dispensary, you can work at the grow, you can do it for 30 years, take vacations and retire.
Yeah.
And be comfortable.
Right.
Because that's whatever American dream is, right? You work 40 hours a week, you do it from now until the agreed upon time, and you can retire.
Yeah.
And that's what the unions have always fought for. That's what union members have died for in the past. Hopefully they never have to do it again.
Right.
But everybody gets their holidays off. Oh, we have Martin Luther King Day, we're closed. They don't thank anybody for that. We have Labor Day every year. It ends the summer in Minnesota. People throw a huge party, they get wasted, they make way too much food. They don't realize people died for that day. They don't realize that those days weren't given. You worked on Labor. You worked on Christmas. You worked on Thanksgiving. Like your children worked.
Wow.
Right? And that's what labor unions have done for us. And I think people have forgotten about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ground floor as we are right now, I think there's ample opportunity to re-educate people and to establish what needs to be for legitimate careers to happen in this industry. Ultimately, it's about showing up. But if you're showing up, are you going to be taken care of?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hardest part for a business to commit to. We love if you showed up, but are we going to be able to take care of you?
Right.
And not growing too fast is critical for that and I think having a good banking partner helps manage growth. And we appreciate the work you do. We're looking forward to continuing to see you at NECANN and CannaCon and being a part of our events around those events, those expos and things. I'm excited. We've got a few, it's always for us, it's the ZAG. We can do the ZIG, but what about the ZAG?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got some tricks up our sleeve and we can't wait to share and be a part of it with you.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no doubt. If folks want to get in touch with Union Bank and they're a cannabis entrepreneur, where's the best place to send them?
Easiest way is customer service at ubtmn.com, or you go right to our website. There's a contact us. That'll hit my inbox, Oliver's inbox. Or if you really want, give me a call, 612-437-5207.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll include all of that in the show notes. We appreciate you coming on the brand new Canna Connect Show, and we're going to have you leave with some Green Standard. We got to get your review. So
thank you.
Awesome. Good to see you.
You too. Appreciate it.